This is the EVP Podcast.
And it's the EVP Podcast, everybody, with your host, Ghosty McGhostface.
I'm Beaker.
And I'm DVO.
And this week, we are going to talk about the bloodiest 47 acres in America.
I want to go.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Let's
road
go.
trip.
Let's get bloody for
Where are we
these.
road tripping to?
Oh, Jefferson City, Missouri.
Oh, that sounds like fun. What's in Jefferson City, Missouri?
Well, probably the oldest continuously operating correction facility west of the Mississippi.
Aha.
All right, then. I'm in. Sign me up.
And this
I
is
want to be
Missouri,
locked in a prison with you guys.
Missouri State Penitentiary.
You've been locked in a bedroom with us before.
Yeah. How did
Anyone
that
can
sound?
do
How did
that.
that sound?
Anyone can lock themselves in a bedroom with somebody. Not everybody can do it in a prison.
That's true.
Yeah, you don't
Willingly.
become Sally's. It's hard to become Sally's. Well, let's talk about a little history of the prison, and then let's get into some real bad history, and then some haunts.
Yeah, because it has some really interesting prisoners. So we'll get into that later.
Some
But
famous prisoners.
you guys had some famous prisoners. I was a little surprised when I read that off. I was like, oh wow, I'm kind of interested to hear these stories.
So yeah,
And you will all hear them later.
This is almost built 200 years ago. So this was the governor at the time. This was John Miller. He came up with the idea to build this back in 1831, and by the time it got started and opened, it was 1836, and was nicknamed the Wall.
The wall. Because of this giant limestone wall that they built around the prison that had like 15 office towers.
Yeah, 15 to shoot motherfuckers down. You try to jump these walls, you'll get shot.
Is there any significance of limestone? Is it stronger? I don't even know.
It's pretty.
Okay.
I don't know.
There probably is.
Like a limestone cowboy.
okay.
Yeah, you never heard of the Limestone Cowboys?
Yeah.
Must have missed that one.
That's how.
I mean, there was the rhinestone, but this is the limestone.
Yeah, they built a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
They called them the Limestone.
Limestone.
Cowboys.
The wall.
So, they averaged about 2,000 prisoners for most of the time, and they ended up getting the first female inmate in 1842. That's kind of significant.
Just kind of.
Kind of. Businesses would end up hiring these prisoners to do labor, so they ended up building a ton of houses in the city, as well as the first Capitol building and the governor's mansion, and just a ton of other things. They ended up building 6 different shoe factories, shoe factories, a clothing and a broom and a twine and a saddle factory
And bricks.
Saddle
and
tree.
bricks. A saddle tree.
Factory.
What's a saddle tree?
So saddle tree is just like the frame for a saddle. They don't put the actual it's
No,
what they
not
put
the
the leather on.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's just the frame for the saddle, and then they put the leather on top of it.
Oh,
so
they didn't want
just-
them handling leather.
No,
huh?
but they were the world's largest saddle tree factory. They did something like 60,000 saddle trees a year.
Damn. And the prison's just making all that money too, huh?
Yeah, a lot of people got rich during doing this stuff. See
Not the prisoners.
not the prisoners. No,
Cheap labor.
cheap labor, just like in Florida, that other prison that we talked about.
Oh yeah.
That seemed to be a running thing in the country. It's like, oh hey, I'm gonna buy these inmates for the week. They're gonna build me some shit.
Like, so slaves aren't a thing anymore, but we have a multicolor array of humans you can choose from. What else do they have? Let's see. In 1868, they ended up expanding the housing unit, which housed Civil War criminals, and it ended up being in use until the day the whole place shut down. It was actually nicknamed the Hole because it looked like a medieval dungeon, and it actually housed the worst criminals, and the only light that entered that area came from a small slit in the door.
Yeah, I actually was hearing stories that people were down in the hole for years at a time, just in that solitary confinement and
In the dark, complete darkness.
yeah, complete darkness. And they'd come out obviously crazy. Some of them, I don't know what happened exactly, but they went kind of blind.
Well, yeah, I think when you're in the dark for so long, your eyes aren't being used anymore.
So they kind of
So they just
atrophy themselves.
Yeah,
and-
they just shut down.
Jeez.
An
Some
organ.
inmates, they would try to find like a button or something, and they would flick it in the dark in their cell, and then they would try to find it. It would give them
That was
something.
a trick they learned from Alcatraz. That's what they were doing in Alcatraz.
Yeah.
These prisoners were passing
This,
on
this
their.
was built like 100 years before Alcatraz.
So the
Actually,
same
I don't know if
prisoners.
this hall was though. This particular was a housing unit 4 or
This
a
was
hall.
1868, so this was definitely.
This was still before Alcatraz.
definitely before Alcatraz.
But yeah, they would flick this button, or if they were lucky enough to have a button,
Right.
they would flick it in the dark, and then they would try to find it just so they would not go insane.
That's so
Did
crazy.
you know there was one guy that was down there for like 18 years?
Yes, I did.
18 years.
18 years.
I can't believe anybody could survive like that.
Well, not only did he survive, his name was John Firebug Johnson. He
Was he in there the whole time though?
he didn't start out in the hole.
Because he
But-
was 18 years locked up total.
Yeah, so he was in there for 17 years. He was actually in the dungeon.
Damn.
So he was down there for 17 years. The warden got sick of him because he kept lighting fires, and he actually burnt one of the buildings down.
Yeah, we'll talk
So-
about that. We'll talk about that once we get. Oh, do you want to talk about it
Yeah,
now?
let's
talk about
since
it
we're
now,
talking about the dungeon, I figured I'd just throw him in there real quick. So he actually burned that building down. I can't remember what building it was. They said he did something like $500,000 worth of damage, and the warden just got sick of him, so he threw him down into the dungeon where he stayed for 17 years. He came out, and he ended up writing a book called Buried Alive for 18 years in the Missouri Penitentiary.
What year was that?
So he went down. It was like 1903, I think, is when that book came out.
Oh,
So he
damn.
got released
Okay, so
in-
it wasn't too long after, just a couple.
No,
few
he was
decades,
down there
couple
February
decades.
26, 1883 to July 1st, 1900.
Wow.
He
Damn.
was down in the dungeon.
In the complete darkness.
Yep.
And did he go blind?
I don't know. Well, he wrote a book, so I don't know. Probably
I mean, he
not.
could just speak it.
He could. But no, he didn't go crazy. He didn't. I don't think he went blind. I think he came out and ended up writing the book
That's
about
insane.
his time in the prison.
I'm surprised. Well, he got out and he made some money.
Yep.
So you had like a pretty good first part of the book, like a first year about the prison life. Then the next 17 years just kind of stayed in.
I was in my own head.
Yeah.
So what's the book all about? Just how crazy he was?
Yeah, well, about his 17, 18 years
So
down in
did
the
20
dungeon.
circles and
Yeah, I don't know what else. I don't know what you're going to talk about. I mean, now I'm a little curious.
We should find the book.
So yeah, that part of the building, that building was built 1868. By 1885 is when all those factories were booming and it became known as the most efficient prison in the country and the greatest in the world. Some would say. Some would say.
Some would say.
Not Junebug.
Like
Not Junebug. He wanted to burn that bitch down.
No. Firebug Johnson.
Firebug.
Junebug.
Firebug. They called him Firebug because, he burned
He's
shit.
a little bit of a pyro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
And he ended up killing some people in the last fire he made.
Oh gosh.
So that's why they ended up throwing him into the dungeon, because he killed like several people.
Yeah, he did a lot of fires.
Yeah, he kept going at it.
This dude wasn't messing around. He burned this shit to the ground.
1905 is when the women's housing unit was built. So they the first woman came in 1842, but it wasn't until 1905 until they actually built a women's section. So it's kind of weird. Like, what were they doing with the women this whole time? And were the
I
women
don't
just
know.
getting?
Maybe a separate prison? I don't know.
No, they were in there.
Oh. Oh, and they put a wing for women.
Yeah,
Okay,
they didn't have
right.
their own women's wing for over 50, 60 years.
They probably just kind of.
Almost 70 years.
So
after.
probably made, I don't know.
Ugh.
They maybe didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
Women were less. I don't know.
I
Back in those days.
You don't know. You don't know. You weren't there. Were you there?
He thought about it.
Yeah. Stop thinking about it. Just
I
go
want to
there.
visit this prison
I do want to go to this prison too. This sounds pretty
for
interesting.
armed robbery.
Okay, let's do some armed robbery in the past.
Yes. Let's go back in time.
1914, Housing Unit 3 was built for the capital punishment and segregation. Have you heard about that area? That sounds craziness. Capital punishment. What kind of craziness would go on there?
Capital punishment.
Like what?
That well, you get punished by the Capitol.
Duh.
I don't probably murders, stabbings, and stuff. I'm speculating. I have no idea.
Okay, so by 1936, it ended up housing 4,900 inmates, which the most it held at one point was 5,200, which is way more than it should have been holding. So a lot of people were just getting thrown in prison left and right. 1937.
There's some businesses that needed some product. Like, we need some more people.
I wonder if that was like part of the plan. Like
This
people were
guy looked at me funny.
like,
Throw him in jail so I
The
can buy
prison
him.
was making so much
Right.
money off this that they were probably trying to get a lot of people.
Oh, jaywalking, come over here.
Yep, yeah, jaywalking. No, that's 10 years, bud.
Easily.
That's
10
10
years.
to 20. That's 10 to 20. Sorry, man.
I'll let you spend most of it outside building this house for me.
Let's see. Well, by 1937, the gas chamber was built. So the gas chamber, they were ended up gassing people to death. They had a bunch of death row inmates.
40 people.
40 people there total.
Did you know most of this shit was built by the inmates too? Like the
Yes,
factories,
all this Snoop
like
sections.
all
these
of this
Snoop
stuff that
sections.
was built on was built by the inmates.
Yeah, they were mining
But who
the.
else is going to do it?
They had quarries there on site, I
Yep.
believe, or
Yeah, they had a
nearby
quarry that they were using to get all this
to get the
stone from.
limestone.
They were the first cowboys of Missouri.
Yeah,
The first limestone cowboys
Yeah.
of Missouri. 1938, they ended up building a 5-story hospital on site. And then, over the years, several riots and murders happened.
The typical stuff.
Typical prison stuff.
yeah.
Riots. One of the worst ones, September 1954.
Oh, I remember that year. Yeah.
Yeah, I was. I can't remember where I was that year, 1954.
I was thinking about waking up for breakfast.
Yeah, that's usually 1954.
That's
was a
what I
good
did
year
in
for
1954.
breakfast. 1954.
I
was a good
was just
breakfast
wondering
year.
where I was going to get breakfast from.
Well,
Definitely
well,
not
you were
McDonald's.
worrying about breakfast. 2 inmates in housing 3 were trying to pretend they were sick, and they ended up. The guards came in there, and when they did, they overpowered them, beat their asses to a pulp.
Just one of them. I only beat one of them.
Okay, one of them got beaten to a pulp,
Yep.
and they stole their keys and started releasing prisoners. And of course, crazy fights, just fires, breaking windows. They ended up needing help of 3 different police departments and the National Guard. By that point, after a day, 2,500 prisoners were loose and rioting in four of the different buildings. They were all on fire too. And after all that, 4 inmates were killed, 50 were injured, 4 officers were injured, no escapes. After all that, ended up shutting down in 2004. So it ended up being 168 years in operation total.
How many years?
168.
168 years. Okay.
So craziness. Do you want to talk about Cell 48?
Cell 48.
Yeah, so Beaker, tell us about during that riot. Was there a reason for that riot to begin with, or why those 2? Not I shouldn't say the riot itself, but maybe why those 2 prisoners attacked the guards.
Well, this was a different.
Well, what's
that
funny
was
is
1954.
that clip I showed you, that guy said it was the 1954. It was actually 1854. It was a riot
There's another one.
100 years
1854.
earlier
Oh, okay.
In Cell 48.
I remember
Yes.
that year as well. Yeah, 1854.
Yeah, 1854.
I
That
was
was
also
that was a
thinking
good-
about having breakfast.
No, that was a dinner year. That was more of a
dinner.
dinner year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe a
1954 was
late
more of a
brunch.
breakfast year.
Maybe it was dinner. What it was like steak and eggs, right? Because that's all we had.
Should be.
We just slaughtered the cow in the back. So there was an inmate that they thought to be a snitch. His name was Walter something or other. I don't remember.
Oh,
Darrell.
Donnell. Yes, Walter Donnell. I remember things because you guys helped me. Yeah, they thought he was a snitch. So they actually
You know what happens to snitches.
snitches get stitches with a hammer. Actually, they took a sledgehammer. They had him locked up away from all these other inmates. Like he knew like these guys were coming for him. And they got into one of the offices and they got a sledgehammer and they took the sledgehammer and used it to like break down the wall to get into this guy's cell, and then they beat him to death with a hammer.
Oh, geez.
They found him handcuffed.
Yeah, he was like handcuffed to.
So when they took the sledgehammer, they probably took handcuffs. They were ready to do some damage to him. They said it was bad.
Yeah, it was bloody, lots of blood.
Gross.
Snitches get stitches.
Ugh.
So that room is said to be extremely haunted for that reason. A lot of residual energy. According to our good friend Zach on his episode, he said that it possibly opened up a portal in that room.
The bludgeoning to death opened a portal?
Yeah, because it was such a heinous crime.
Sure, I
guess.
agree with that. I don't know if that would cause a portal.
Yeah,
though.
probably not. But that's what Zach said. So I'm going with it.
Okay.
'Cause he doesn't lie to us.
I mean, I could see it leaving energy,
A lot of negative energy.
a lot of energy, but I don't see how that could just summon a portal.
No, probably not. But
Yeah.
I'm sure he said it for the show.
I mean,
That's
because if
how
that
you
was the
get
case,
views.
that would be like anytime, toddlers throw an extreme fit.
Yeah.
Oh, the damn kids are opening portals. Stop them.
I don't know that a toddler throwing a fit is the equivalent of being bludgeoned to death with a hammer.
They act like it.
You would think it's the same if you heard it.
Yeah, if you heard a child throwing
Well,
a fit.
as being the only one here that doesn't have a child, I wouldn't know what a tantrum's like with a kid. So
Sounds like they're getting bludgeoned to death. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So imagine someone opening portals. That's what it sounds like.
oh, okay.
So next time you're at a shopping center and you hear some kid freaking out, throwing a tantrum, like
Portal.
beat them. Stop them from opening portals.
No, just go up to the kid and be like, "Hey, kid, are you scared?"
Or yell at their parents.
I'm
Okay,
fascinated.
don't beat them. Yell at their parents and tell their parents.
Can
You
we
want
beat
them
the
to open
parents?
portals?
Beat the parents. Wait,
Yeah, there you go.
now, if we're at the store, we could be at like a Target, and then they have Ouija boards there. So if they're opening portals, we could ask the Ouija board if there's a portal there. We could verify.
Yeah, that's true.
As we're opening more portals, what's wrong with you? Target's a hot spot for portals.
Sometimes the only way you got to fight portals with portals. It's like fighting fire with fire. Like they open a portal, I got to counteract it by opening another portal.
Target's a hot spot.
So the moral of the story is, don't
Stop opening
stop
portals,
ordering
kids.
portals in Target with Ouija
Stop
boards.
throwing tantrums.
And that's why that cell block's haunted.
Any other prisoners you want to talk about?
What do you have?
I've got a few here. I mean, there's some notable prisoners, and some of them I don't know. Some of them I have heard of, but this is on my list here. Robert Burdella, Charles Pretty Boy Floyd.
Who's that first guy?
He was a serial killer, a torturer, and a rapist.
Oh, shit.
Just opening portals left and right. This guy.
Yeah, this
Jeez,
guy
there's
was...
portals everywhere.
Damn, you left the trail of portals.
Yeah. And I was just saying, Charles Pretty Boy Floyd, Charles Ray Hatcher, Lee Shelton, and then I'm going to talk real quick about James Earl Ray, and then also Carl Austin and Bonnie Hall.
All right.
So let me talk about Carl Austin and Bonnie Hall. This was a couple, and they kidnapped a young boy and held him for ransom.
Oh.
Oh, it's magic.
Yeah, and they basically told the parents, and I don't know what the parents did. I don't know if they were well off. I don't know what they
Yeah,
did.
they were.
exactly.
They had money.
They had some money, and so they
Well, if they kidnapped a poor family's kid, they kind of did it wrong.
and so they kidnapped this boy, and they said, "Hey, we will return him for just a measly 600.
600,000.
600,000, yeah, 600,000. And
What
gosh,
year
what
was
year
this?
was that's a great question. I can't
It
remember.
was early 1900s, I think.
Yeah. So the family said, "Yeah, we gotta get our boy back." They paid the ransom. No boy was returned because he was already dead
They killed him within an hour.
of kidnapping him.
Yeah.
And he was buried in their backyard, or in their yard. I'm assuming the backyard, but they had buried him in the backyard. They were arrested and they were in the prison here. And they were one of the two that were in the gas chamber. They were executed, I believe, at the same time. From what I understand, they were executed at the same time.
Yeah, they got a gas chamber. Might as well.
Yeah, because I was watching a show called Destination Fear, and they were doing an investigation here. at the Missouri State Prison, and 2 of them were in the gas chamber, and there were 2 seats in there. So interesting. What happened was they were telling the story of what happened. So the 2 people are on camera, then they have the cameraman, and they were kind of telling the story. Okay, they put him in the gas chamber, they close it, and then one of the guards knocks on the door. And so it's kind of, I don't know what it's made out of, tin. I don't know. I mean, it's metal. So they go knock on the door. They knocked. I think they knocked it 3 times, or they were starting to knock, and there was a knock back on the door, which was caught on camera. So that was, it's pretty interesting. It was funny because one of the investigators was a female. She ran out. The camera was mostly on her, and her response was it was a pretty good response.
She always freaks out though.
Oh, does she?
Is that the point of the show?
I don't know.
Around screaming.
I've never seen the show before until
I don't think it's the point, but it
I've
happens a
met
lot.
them. I've got my picture.
I
with
got
them.
them to say, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, I said it too. They looked around and they all laughed. I still don't know who they are. I've never seen their show, but I'm with them in a picture.
Well, they're huge fans of the podcast, so let's clear that up right now.
Well, yeah, that's why they took a picture with us.
That's why they stopped us for our picture.
Right, just like everybody else did.
So it was pretty interesting that they got this knock caught on camera on the door that they were knocking on, and freaked them out. So they're in the gas chamber, and they got their Ovilus out. So if you guys are not sure what Ovilus is, it's a device that has a database of words. Am I correct in that?
Yep.
And then it's supposedly spirits can use that to have words come through. And so they were asking if the couple was there. Were they really there? I don't know. And they said, what caused you to, be in the gas chamber or get locked up? I can't remember what they asked exactly. But on the Ovilus, it came through the word bury. So they thought that was pretty significant since they buried the kid in their yard that they kidnapped. And they said, well, why did you even do that to this kid, to this family? And then another word that popped in and said killed. So those were the 2 words that came through the Ovilus, and then they no longer wanted to stay in that gas chamber. So it was pretty significant. They had the knock, they had the 2 words bury and killed come through the Ovilus.
You know who else got words on the Ovilus?
Who?
Nick Groff did.
Okay.
They had an Ovilus in, I believe it was cell 48, and
Okay.
they were talking to it through the radio. They just had a 2-way radio in the room. They were back at their base camp, whatever you want to call it, and they were asking questions.
So using it
maybe
like
it
a
wasn't Nick,
spirit
it
box
was-
almost?
Kind of. So they had the Ovilus in the cell.
Oh, they still have the Ovilus
So
too.
the
Got it.
Ovilus 3 was in the jail cell, and then they had a 2-way radio in there, and then
got
because
it.
they were able to see everything on camera and all that, they actually got when they were asking questions, they got the Ovilus to say, "Will tear men apart."
Wow.
Wow. That's pretty interesting doing it that way. So leaving the 2-way radio in
Yeah, I've
there.
never seen that before.
Huh. So they don't actually have to sit in there.
Yeah, they weren't in there. They just had their infrared cameras in there. I know at one point they also went into the dungeon and like shut off the lights and had them investigate like the prisoners when the prisoners were down in the dungeon. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool where they were interacting with the Ovilus from across from wherever the heck they were, like watching it on their TV screens, communicating with the 2-way radio, and it said, "Will tear men apart."
That can change ghost hunting altogether. You can like
You mean Zoom? Just Zoom the investigation? You don't even go
just
anymore.
have night vision cameras set up in a room and
Yeah.
just like, you know what? I really want to investigate somewhere in Cairo today.
It's true.
And then have every room set up and you can go room to room and start, investigating and recording what's happening. That could change the game. Oh my
That'd
god.
be interesting. The next person I'm talking about is James Earl Ray. So let me tell you about a little bit of him in prison here. So he was incarcerated for holding up a Kroger store back in St. Louis and was given a 20-year sentence. Mr. Ray had tried to escape multiple times. In 1960, he made an unsuccessful attempt to escape by climbing a wall on a homemade ladder, and that collapsed on him. So he probably fell. 5 years later, he made it to the roof before being spotted. James Earl Ray became infamous for his ability to disappear for multiple days at a time within the prison. So he'd be like trying to probably find these little nooks and crannies and secret hiding spots, and and trying to get out. And he finally just would get caught every now and then.
Or he would get hungry. Like, oh, I gotta go to chow.
It's been a few days. Like, all right, this ain't working. All right, what's my notes here? Okay. In April 1967, his escape plan finally worked. So he reported to his shift in the prison bakery. So they had a bakery as well, apparently, in
I'm
there.
not surprised. It's the greatest prison in the world.
And then he basically escaped in a bread box, is what he basically did. Mr. Ray later went on and created a plan and carried out the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. So if that name sounds familiar, that is why. He escaped prison and killed MLK.
Oh, shit. I didn't know he ever escaped prison to do that.
Did you know that when he had escaped prison, the bounty on him was $50? That was it. And they still had an open bounty on him until he actually died in Tennessee somewhere.
Wow.
It's probably why nobody really went after him.
I think they upped it. I think after he assassinated Martin Luther King Jr., they increased the amount of the reward for him. But yeah, before the assassination, $50.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who else was in there?
Who?
There was a boxer.
Put him up.
Put him up. Charles Sonny Liston.
I know him.
He was actually incarcerated for armed robbery in 1952. 1950, sorry. 1950. It was while he was in there, some of the guards taught him how to box. And they actually saw his potential as a boxer. And I believe they let him out on good behavior. He wasn't in very long. He was only there for 2 years. He joined professional boxing and ended up in 1952. And then in 1953, ended up winning the World Heavyweight Championship in boxing.
Yeah, I know of him very well, and I had no idea that he was in this prison until looking into this. I thought that was pretty interesting. He's famous.
He is famous.
Any
Famous
other
boxer.
prisoners we can think of?
Um,
Notable prisoners?
No.
No, I think that covered all the famous.
Yeah, pretty interesting stories.
Most of the famous ones, yep.
Do you have any ghost stories about it?
Let me tell you something.
All right.
Well, I know in cell 48, where the guy was bludgeoned with a hammer, people do report having strange, heavy feelings, and even an unearthly human figure has been caught on camera in that room.
Mm-hmm. In the control room and in some of the housing units, there is said to be an entity named Fast Jack. And how fast does he jack? I don't know.
Yeah, let's find out.
He jacks fast. I mean, what?
People see him usually wearing a white lab coat and carrying a clipboard sometimes. Mr. Fast Jack is thought to be someone who worked within the medical facility because of his appearance. Staff have actually reported that the entity will open doors, walk the halls, and sometimes appear for brief moments of time before completely disappearing.
I got a story from one of the old prison guards.
Okay.
His name was Tom Wells, and he was working there in 1989. Now he ends up doing some of the paranormal tours there. But he said on a sunny day around 3 p.m., he'd just been talking to an inmate named John when he noticed another inmate with long blonde hair and a white t-shirt walk out a door during count. So they were doing counts when they seen this guy walking out. So he's all, they weren't supposed to be outside. And he thought to myself, you son of a bitch, I'm going to jump down this guy's throat. And I go out there and there's nobody there, he explained. I thought, man, he's running around the building. So I went on the right side of the building and nobody was there. And the big gate is there and it's all locked. And I was like, I know I've seen this guy. So I ran to the left side and there's a tower right there. I said, hey, has anybody ran by there? And he said, no, it's count time. It's locked down. So I'm like, okay, there's a van sitting there that we used to take supplies up the hill. And I thought, my God, he's in that van. We got an escape attempt. It's on a hill, so I'm looking underneath as I walk up, and I look in the back windows. The seats are all taken out, and I look in there, and there's nothing there. So I open it up, and in the meantime, John the inmate had stepped up and out front and was watching me. I shut the doors, and I'm like, what? He goes, you ain't going to find that guy. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I saw him. I said, what did he look like? And he said he had long blonde hair and a white t-shirt. And I'm like, yeah. He says, Wells, we ain't got nobody in this building that looks like that. And I was just like, whoa, you're right. It felt like somebody had just punched me in the chest.
That's crazy.
Yeah, even prisoners and guards, while the prison was in operation, most of them have actually. It was well known that this prison was haunted while in operation. Do you know how many people have died in the prison? Do you have anybody have those numbers by chance?
I don't have the numbers.
All I know.
Over 2,000, wasn't it?
Oh shit! I don't. I
Maybe-
maybe, not
maybe
have
I
that
have
number.
no idea.
Okay,
I believe it though.
and so it's a lot of people while the prison was operation, guards and prisoners have all. I shouldn't say all, but most of them all agreed that this has been haunted while he was in operation. Hearing footsteps, hearing doors slam, seeing doors open, seeing shadow people appear, walk through walls. So all of this a lot of these stories had all been reported while the prison was in operation. It's a spooky prison.
I think there's only 3 penitentiaries that let you tour. Alcatraz, one of them. This one, the other, and the third one is I think Eastern State.
Yes.
So I think
So, yeah.
I think we need to make some trips, you guys.
Let's do it.
I have a friend out in Missouri.
Missouri.
Missouri. Yeah.
Any other stories you guys got?
I do not.
I just know in the female wing, they've reported seeing a female ghostly figure dressed in vintage clothing, and other people have also seen a man in outdated prison uniform leaning against the fence. And some people have also said that they've heard ghost children, and some people have said they've heard a dog.
Yeah, speaking of the in old prison guard clothing, I heard that as well in that wing, and I thought, is there any reports of guards dying in the prison? I couldn't find anything about guards.
Yeah, there's
dying.
been guards dying.
Well, I guess in that riot, I guess.
I mean,
Yes.
some of the riots, some of the guards died.
And the riots that happened multiple times too. So there was multiple riots over the years. And
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure there's just like random, like where it wasn't a riot and somebody just had something and was able to stab one sometime.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they don't necessarily have to have died there to haunt there, if that makes sense. Sometimes
Right.
when people haunt places, it's a place that's familiar to them. So
So they opened a portal so they can come back.
exactly.
Yes, I do know that,
With a hammer.
but for me, it was like, but why in the prison guard clothing? That was it for me. Unless maybe they died in that clothing there.
It could
on
be
shift.
residual.
I see what you're going with. And
It could be residual.
That would make more sense that they died there, though. I mean, yeah, even if it's residual, usually spirits, when you die, you're wearing the clothes that you died in.
Yes.
Even as a residual haunt.
Well, I mean, it could be not because it was like a moment where they died. It could just be a moment of time that they're replaying.
Oh, that could be true.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That makes sense,
I
too.
see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, he's smart.
Yeah, I do the thinking when I smoke with the weeds, you know?
Okay.
I don't smoke of the weeds and think.
You should try it.
I should. I know, but you, know,
You jumble your words around.
I don't,
When I do it.
I'm not self-employed, so
Yeah, it's a benefit I have.
yeah, lucky.
All right, interesting. Yeah, this was a fun topic. For me, the best part was just kind of reading these prisoners and their stories. I thought that was the most interesting part. I like that.
The history behind this was pretty interesting too. Just a lot of history. I mean, almost 200 years ago.
Yeah, true. And then when did you say it shut down? In the 2000s, right?
2004.
2004. Wow. Okay. And you can go there and take tours now.
Well,
Yeah,
the only reason why
paranormal
they
tours.
shut it down is because they built another. They built another prison.
Another dungeon.
Another dungeon.
Just less haunted.
Yeah, it's not haunted
Let's
yet.
You know, did we touch on why they built the prison here in Jefferson?
I didn't say why, no, but it was mainly to like get the capital or
Yeah,
just keep the
Jefferson
capital.
was the capital, and like there were other cities nearby that wanted to be the capital of Missouri, so they built this prison in Jefferson,
Like, well, you know what?
and then built a town around it.
You know what the capital gets? A prison.
So we got it
So
now.
guess what was the capital?
We're going to build 47 acres.
Of bloody.
The bloodiest 47 acres.
Yeah, there we go. The bloodiest.
We're gonna make this the
47
bloodiest 47 acres in the capital.
right in the middle, right in the
Deal with
heart.
it. Yeah.
All right, let's call that an episode, guys.
But before we do, if you've enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends about it, like and subscribe.
Please. Yeah, please
Do it. We need that yacht.
And if you don't, Ghosty don't play that.
Peace out, butterflies.
Welcome to the hole. This is the EVP Podcast.